we'll open the agenda this evening with the public hearing. We have two. So I will take a motion to open the May 4th, 2021 Board of Select Persons meeting and the public hearing.
So be it.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So the first of our public hearings is on the municipal warrant articles, the secret ballot referendum questions to be voted on at the June 8 municipal election. The first item, or the first warrant article, is question number 1, to see if the town will appropriate $250,000 from the undesignated fund to construct a cement pad for storage containers at the transfer station with any unexpended balance lapsing into the solid waste capital reserve. Additionally, to see if the town will appropriate $33,874 from the undesignated fund to raise the balance of the solid waste capital reserve to $50,000. On December 31, 2020, the undesignated fund balance was $3,530,027. The solid waste capital reserve balance will be $15,126 following a paving project in June. I'll take a motion on that.
So be it.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none. Rick, what's your pleasure?
Vote no, we don't have to vote on this, do we? No, this is,
Do we have to do a recommendation though, correct?
we did one already, didn't we, when we of the articles?
Did we have the budget committee? Because usually we would have a little like the board and then the budget committee, because it is a monetary article.
Yes, yes. I'll
And
vote.
didn't we ask if,
I don't know if we got over, but yes. This is just a public hearing. This is not,
Right.
just so that people know what's going on.
I was thinking we still have to approve it for moving it forward after the public hearing.
So Melanie, you don't have to approve, you already approved them to go forward. So
Okay,
basically, it's just it's a public hearing to let the residents know that these are moving forward. And if they have any questions to ask, that this is the time for them to ask it.
okay. Clearly, I'm not like with my program yet. Can you tell I was on screen? Like running in, here we go.
May I ask, when these are printed on the ballot, will there be a recommendation below them? Has that already been married, do you know?
No, there won't be any recommendation. Historically, that isn't what we've done on just regular municipal warrant articles. We do
Okay,
do it- Okay,
that's fine. I mean, just,
okay.
All right, then moving on to, is there any more discussion on question 1? All right, seeing none. Question number 2, or actually ballot referendum question, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the lapsed amount of $45,000 from the undesignated fund for the purchase of a 1-ton facility maintenance truck. The truck was not purchased in 2020 due to on 31/20. The designated fund balance was $3,530,027. Are there questions?
I'll make that motion.
One,
I'll second the motion.
moved and seconded. Okay, any discussion? Jack, did you have your hand up? No? Okay. All right, moving on then to question number 3. To see if the town will vote pursuant to 36 MRSA Section 506 to authorize the tax collector to accept prepayment of property taxes prior to the delivery of the tax commitment to the tax collector by the assessors without payment of interest. All right, take a motion.
I'll make that motion.
And moved and seconded by Barbara. That's open for discussion. Are any questions on that article? All right, seeing none, I will take a motion to close the first public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will take a motion to open the second public hearing.
So be it.
second,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The purpose of the second public hearing is to allow the Board of Select Persons to hear testimony on a setback violation at 670 Manchester Road, Belgrade, and to consider a no action letter regarding the violation. Anthony, do you want to do this, or do you want to give some background? Do you want Gary to?
I told you I will give some background, and then Gary and I, along with the property owner, Angel Dyer, who is among us here tonight, can answer any questions that you might have. So you folks are aware that we became aware of a setback violation earlier this year at 670 Manchester Road. And that violation occurred with the construction of a third garage bay back in 2010. And it encroached within the 10-foot setback of the neighboring property. And so our CEO, our code enforcement officer, Gary Fuller, issued an enforcement letter, and he offered some options for the property owner, Angeline Dyer. And so she sought an after the fact variance from the appeals board. But in looking at her application, the appeals board determined it really didn't qualify for a variance. And we were encouraged to pursue an enforcement action. So we did issue an enforcement letter to Ms. Dyer and to the person who built the third bay of the garage. Our hope was that those parties would be able to resolve that matter, but we were prepared if we needed to be to pursue that matter in court. Now, as that deadline was approaching, our code enforcement officer recalled that there is another possible resolution, and that is the no action letter. And a no action letter would simply indicate that the town is aware of the violation, which again took place 11 years ago, and that we are choosing to take no action. That letter would be filed with the Registry of Deeds so that if Ms. Dyer ever sought to sell her property, that would be honored and accepted by the title insurer. And she did check with her title insurer to make sure that was the case. I've explained this situation to the appeals board. They believe that a no action letter is the proper and best resolution of this, as do Mr. Fuller and I. It would be the least cost for everybody involved and just the cleanest and simplest way to resolve this issue. And with that, we will try to answer any questions that anyone may have.
I guess I have a question. What if this permit was issued in 2010 prior to the construction of this garage? Why are we? I'm just curious. Why are we finding out that it's less than 10 feet from the neighboring property line 10 years later? Gary, do you have an answer? Or?
Yeah, I do. What happened was when he got his permit, he showed a site plan that he was going to be 20 feet from the property line.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yes, and then he bought the property next door.
Mm-hmm.
And when he purchased that, he had it surveyed. And the survey determined that it was 6 feet from the property line. So apparently he didn't know exactly, or 5.5 or 6 feet. So apparently he didn't know exactly where the property line when he built that third bay on the garage.
Yeah.
So after the survey, it was determined, and Angel wants to be able to sell her garage and have a clear title. So there was, she's looking for a way to resolve this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure. I get it now.
Yep.
All right, seeing none, what I would like to enter into the public record is what the board will decide if we submit this letter to both parties, or actually just Ms. Dyer. The Board of Select Persons of the Town of Belgrade understand that the third bay of a garage at a single-family residence located on a lot identified as tax map 4, lot 22A at 670 Manchester Road in Belgrade, Maine, currently owned by Angeline Dyer, was built in 2010, and at that time was inadvertently located 5 feet plus or minus from the adjacent lot identified as tax map 4, lot 22, located at 682 Manchester Road, currently owned by Tracy Markham. We further understand the location of the structure resulted in a violation of the Town of Belgrade's minimum lot size ordinance, requiring a setback of 10 feet from the property line. We further understand that as the owner of 670 Manchester Road, you may desire to convey the property at some future time. Given these circumstances, the town will not take any action against Lot 22A regarding the setback violation of Section 5, subsection A, paragraph, subsection 2, subsection A of the Town of Belgrade's minimum lot size ordinance, executed as of the date and year set forth below by a select board vote on May 4, 2021.
You're looking for a motion on this?
Well, we can't take a motion on that. We'll take it when we come out of the public meeting, the public hearing. Are there any more questions on this?
Both parties gonna be happy with this.
Melanie,
Yes, dear.
Melanie, do you want to hear from Angeline?
Absolutely. If she wants to pipe in, you are welcome. Angeline, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, no.
All right, seeing none, I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a
Second.
second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will take a motion to re-enter the select board meeting.
Be it.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? All right, we are back in this regularly scheduled select board meeting. I will make a motion that the board send a letter indicating a no action letter signed by the Board of Select Persons Chair to the owner of the lot at 670 Manchester Road.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All right. All right, so the meeting is called to order for the select board meeting. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
stands,
one nation, under God,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the regularly scheduled May 4 Select Board 2021 Select Board meeting is now in order. First up, we have public comment. So I will direct folks to the bottom of your screen. If you wiggle your mouse and you get to the bottom of your screen, you will notice the spot where it says reactions. If you click on reactions, there is a spot there for raising your hand. If you have anything that you'd like to add, or you want to make sure that I notice you have something to say, if you could please do that. Click the raise your hand. It's actually going to put you up to the top of the Zoom meeting. Hopefully I won't miss anyone. The other things that I'd like to mention is that the public comment section is where we raise things that we want to bring to the select board's attention that may not be covered on the regular agenda. It's not old business items, it's new things, it's some things that maybe want to get on the select board's radar. So it's the remainder of the agenda is business. The items are not debatable. They are we're happy to answer some questions. The agenda is always available on the town website. but we do try to move right along through the agenda. So if there are any questions that aren't pertinent or more conversational, that we'll try to hold those at bay. So that being said, for public comment, is there anyone here who has anything they would like to bring to the board's attention that will not be covered on this evening's agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move right along to old business. And the first and only item is the approval of the April 2021 Select Board meeting minutes. So we'll take a motion.
So be it.
Second.
Moved and seconded. That item is open for discussion. All right, seeing none. Ricky, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
All right, 5-4-0 against. Next up, we have old business, new business, sorry. We have a committee appointment. Valerie Hudspeth would like to be part. Valerie, did I say your name properly? Oh, sorry. Click your space bar or, oop. I don't know what I just did, but I'm not touching it again. Oh, Val, if you scroll up to the top of your box, you can unmute yourself or
I
there
got
you go.
it. Okay.
Okay. Did I say your name properly?
Yes, you did.
Thank you. Okay. So Valerie would like to become a member of our appeals board. So I will take a motion to open this agenda item.
Yeah.
And a
Second.
moved and seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, Val. Why do you wish to- I'm like, you're on the hot seat now. Why do you want to do this?
Why do I want to do this? Because I think there's a need for somebody else to serve as an alternate to the appeals board, and I like to take care and help my community, so. And you get to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, it's crazy how much we don't know when we're just members of the public.
Yes, yes. So I like to get involved. My husband and I moved back to Maine 2016. And I just think that it's important to go ahead and be part of the community, and this is a way to be part of the community.
We do appreciate it. I've probably said too many times, it takes a village to raise a town. So we've got a pretty good village. All right, does anyone have any more discussion on Val's application? All right, seeing none. Dan, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 5-4.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for being willing to participate. All right, next up, we have a discussion and consideration of increasing the commercial brush fees at the transfer station. I'll take a motion to open that item.
So be it.
And a
Second.
second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? All right, that item is open for discussion. So Ken, do you want to lead this?
Sure, why not? Yeah, we're looking to increase, well, for commercial haulers only. Currently, we have the first load of brush is free for residents, and every load after that in the day is $4. Commercial haulers are coming in with rather large loads. They're not, just a residential size load, doing some clearing and what have you. And it's a little bit overwhelming at times. So we were looking at increasing the fee for every load to 75 cents a cubic yard. And no free load for a commercial entity.
No free load for commercial. Okay. Would it be easier just to set a flat rate of $40 a load?
That wouldn't No, because some are coming in with a 16-foot trailer, and then we have a guy that'll come in with a pulp truck.
Okay,
That wouldn't be fair across the board. Pay for the volume you bring in. I mean, that's the way we charge for bulky waste, demo wood. It's all by the cubic yard.
okay. Does anyone have any questions for Ken or any concerns? Seemed like in years past, we used to charge for it and then we had backed off on charging for it, correct? Bruce,
I
can you?
couldn't, me
do you remember
personally, I
how
couldn't
this all
answer that.
shook out?
And brush we've never charged for, just the four, we started the $4 for the second load.
And then are we not getting, I know in the past what we had done was they would come in and chip it and we would get,
Yeah,
we
we
would
get,
have, we'd have revenue coming back from it.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's zero now.
What were you gonna say, Ken?
And part of the concern is going forward, the industry is changing quite a bit, and eventually we are going to wind up paying to have it hauled off. Eventually, might be 5 years from now, but we
Now, do
weren't
we
we
still
weren't
have-
getting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's
Marilyn.
okay.
I
Do we
said
have-
what I was going to say is we. All right. I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna shut up. Go ahead.
No, I'm gonna let you say your piece and then I'll,
Oh, I was just gonna say, 7 years ago, we were getting $2 a ton coming in, and then it went down to $1 a ton, and now it's down to 0. That's all. It's just going backwards.
going backwards. Do we still have someone that will come in and ship it for us there? And if so, is there a use that we have that we could use the chips for? Or would we not do that because,
That'd cost us money for them to chip it. Right
Okay.
now, they take the chips for nothing.
so they take the chips now for nothing, but somebody still comes and chips it there and then takes that away?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Jean?
My question was about the revenue side of it. I mean, when somebody takes the chips, do we get revenue from them?
Not any, we don't anymore. We used to get it $2 a ton and then went to $1 a ton, and now biomass is virtually nothing. So the expense that the person has, because it's dry wood, rotten wood, so it doesn't weigh up very good. So nobody's paying for it anymore. For brush.
Nobody is, or the people, is there one person we have that does it, or?
Yes, there's one person right now we have that does it, but yeah, nobody's paying for a transfer station brush anymore. Right now, we have Marshall that comes in, and it has to be a tub grinder. It can't be a regular chipper like these guys in the woods that have chippers that won't do the brush and stuff because it's too small. So it has to be what they call a tub grinder. And what it is it feeds in, and they feed it in, and they can grind, anything right down small.
Right, well, I was only thinking because I know that, Colby College, I mean, that's what they heat with is wood chips.
Yes.
And just, didn't know if, I know loggers who chip specifically for Colby, and didn't know if there was an opportunity somehow to, it doesn't matter to me either way, but
That has to be all hardwood, and it can't have no limbs or leaves in it. It's straight hardwood. So it's called, they call it round wood chips is what they call it. It's a high grade chip. Like Colby and RSU 18 burns.
right.
And
Okay.
just because I don't have the number off the top of my head, do one of you or Ken know about how much it costs us each year to get rid of that pile? Do we do it, is it twice a year that they come in and chip it or once?
Okay, so the brush doesn't cost, that costs us nothing. It's zero to us to get rid of it. Where the cost comes in, it's handling more than anything. If we don't have, especially the past couple of years, last summer, as you may remember, it was very dry and there were no burn permits. So we got a whole lot more than normal. So far this year, we're probably about the same. The cost is really in the handling, and we don't have the large equipment to handle that much. So we'll have to eventually start hiring somebody in to move it with an excavator to move it and keep so that we have the room. Because all we have is the skid steer and I can't pile it up more than 8-10 feet in the air.
Okay. All right, are there any more questions on this item? All right, Dan, what are your thoughts? What's your pleasure?
I mean, I don't have a problem with increasing the prices. I mean, the businesses are making money doing what they're gonna do. I prefer to keep things free for the residents bringing in a load at a time. But commercial, bringing in stuff that's commercial, I can understand that. Most transfer stations or whatever charge a lot more than we charge. I know towns like Windsor charge for every single thing they bring in. So, I mean, we actually keep our prices down quite a bit.
Ricky, you got anything to weigh in?
Nope.
Nope. Barbara, do you have anything?
No, I think it sounds quite reasonable to me.
Okay. Ernie?
I'm in favor of it. I guess, I don't know, should I make a motion that we accept the transfer station committee's recommendation and increase the fees on commercial brush hauling?
Sounds good. To 75 cents per yard.
Yes,
All right.
as per their recommendation.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Barbara seconded. Any more discussion? All right, seeing none. Ricky,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Ernie.
Yes,
All right, 5-4-0 against.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, you as
See ya.
well. All right, next up, we have the discussion and consideration of the purchase of equipment for the fire department tank at 65. Congratulations, by the way, on that, Dan. I'll take a motion to open that agenda item.
So be it.
And a second.
Second,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That item is open for discussion.
I'll put my 2 cents in on it, but we originally, we asked for the 250 up to that for the new truck. And I believe, I don't know the exact amount, it was like 241 or 242. Knowing we're gonna put equipment on it, we could have got it with a truck, but be a lot more, cost us a lot more money. So that's why we waited for the truck to see where, what we needed for exact equipment, and then that's what I got the prices for. So that would bring it up to the, close to the 250. If anything extra, I'd take it out of my budget. Because the old tank truck really didn't have a lot of stuff on it. It just had a portable pump on the back. And this one's more of has a 500 gallon minute pump where you can have cross lays and nozzles and a couple SCBA mounts for the cabinets and stuff. And I mean, I got this one price too, but I'll price it out with, I got this for, to bring to the meeting, but I'll price it out through Admiral and IPS, which would be 2 other ones. So I can go with the cheapest amount.
Need the equipment. I'm gonna make a motion to go with it.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second that.
All right, any more discussion?
But may I ask, what's the disposition of the old truck that it replaced?
Well, once we get done training, we have to do a series of training for the state. We have to do driver training, pump training. Then I'll bring it back to you, the select board for what you guys want to do. Normally, we put it up for bid.
Sure.
We'll probably be a month by the time we get the equipment in mounted. Everybody gets their driver training. We did some last night.
Sure.
They sent the wrong strainer, so I had to email them today. They're sending the right one to fit the truck. So, there's gonna be little issues like that to get taken care of. So probably in a month, I'd come back to you guys and once we put it into service and then figure out what you want to do with that one.
Okay.
Assuming we put it out for bid. Because it's a steel tank and it's leaking now and it's only gonna get worse.
Okay.
So like other ones, by the time we retire them, they are retired.
Yeah, well, the new ones are poly. The old ones were steel. So these new ones, they're plastic poly. So they should last quite a while.
All right, any more questions? All right, seeing no more discussion. Ernie,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
All right, 5-4-0 against.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Have a good night. All right, Gary. There he is. I was like, where's Gary Muller? I know I saw him. He popped into the middle of my screen. All right, next up, we have a discussion and consideration of Veterans Memorial improvements. I'll take a motion to open that item.
Over it.
In a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? 5-4. All right, Gary, you have the floor.
You might remember a while back, we talked about the fact that on the existing memorial, we have names through 1972. And since the US has had some sort of a police action or war going, most of the time between 72 and 2021, there's a lot of names missing on that monument. You have in your packet 3 photos and 3 drawings. The drawings indicate what's going to have to be done to add 2 plaques. There'll be wings that come out from the sides of the existing memorial. There'll be a plaque in each one of those wings. I suspect, judging from past names, there'll be about 100 names, which will fill up 1 plaque. 1 plaque will be probably empty for a period of time. The cost to expand that is about $6,000. I've got a bid from one guy who I happen to trust. I've raised $3,000 or $2,750 to get that done. And I look at this as probably being done in phases where we put the wings out, go back and put the plaques in with the names on 1 plaque, or if there's more than that, on 2. Carol and I have discussed putting a bench in there, doing a little bit of flower planting and bush planting and making it look better. The guy that I have talked to about expanding the memorial will put in ground lighting instead of the 2 odd little lights that are on there. So that's where we stand right now. Half the money's raised, just about. My plan is to go ahead and raise the rest of that, have the guy do the work. Go out and get the names of the veterans that need to go on the plaques, contract for the plaques, and then put them on the memorial. So that's where we stand on that part of it. Questions, comments?
I think so far it sounds.
Screams of rage?
Nope.
Sounds good. Thanks for doing it.
Appreciation.
Then I'll continue with that. Now comes, you have to make a decision. On the back, if you look at one of your photos, you'll see this little plaque on the back of the memorial that says it's a time capsule and needs to be opened in 2020. We seem to have gone by that date.
No, 2000.
Was it 2000? I thought it was, 2000, sorry, 2000, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
We totally missed it.
Yeah, 2000s when it should have been opened was not open. So I think from my standpoint, it makes no difference at all. From the standpoint of the town, it's kind of an opportunity to open it up and take a look in at either Memorial Day or the 4th of July as a little side event to have somebody open that up and see what's in that time capsule. Might be interesting.
Hmm.
But that's you guys' decision. Unless Carol wants to weigh in on it.
Now, Garrett, I guess I'm just sort of brainstorming here. Would it make sense to take care of what needs to be done and increase the size, put the plaques on, and then have a celebration or a dedication or something and open the time capsule at that time?
It makes no difference to me. I think it's an opportunity for the town to do something a little bit different on either Memorial Day or the 4th. Whether you do it now or later doesn't make any difference. I think now is kind of an easier thing to do. You won't have wings out there. You'll be able to get people gathered around a little closer to see what's going on. But it just probably needs to be opened, is all I'm saying.
Well, yeah. Well, and I agree. I was just wondering if we have a plan in place for cleaning it up and making it a little bit more of an inviting space. There may be a lot of folks in town who don't know really that it exists or where it is, or is it private property, things like that. So maybe as a way to call attention to the effort that you folks are putting into the revamping of the memorial, then if we were to tie that into essentially like a reopening of it, and with the reopening, we're going to open this time capsule at the same time to maybe call a little more attention in from all the way around.
Sounds good. Do we restock the time capsule? Do we put like a new time capsule there?
Could probably put some masks in there and a vaccine.
But I'd like to put my cell phone in there and lock it away.
I was sort of amazed when I found the stupid thing back there. Because it's kind of an odd deal. This little plate that says open in 2000. So whatever you guys want to do. I would think, now I will tell you that the time frame on getting this redone is probably not a short time frame. I hope to have the wings built this year and then go into name gathering, make the plaques, put them on. It'll probably be next year before that's done. That whole process is $10,000, $6,000 to put the wings on the existing memorial, and another $4,000 for the plaques. And since I'm going to hit you all up for money tonight, I'd like you to email me the amount you're going to pledge for that. I'd appreciate it.
I think I'd like to see it done on Memorial Day.
You mean this coming Memorial Day?
Yes.
It's up to you guys.
You mean the time capsule?
Yeah, the time capsule.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not going to be done on Memorial Day. I can guarantee that.
But open the time capsule then, couldn't you?
Oh, yeah, you can open it anytime.
Sure.
Just use that as the kickoff for your construction and everything else.
That isn't a bad idea.
Sure.
Carol?
I was just going to say, I remember when they were gathering stuff for that time capsule a while ago, that if we're going to restock it, for lack of a better word, it does take a little bit of process of thinking about what should go in it and how we want to go in it, and whether we seal it up that day or whether we maybe seal it up when the project's completed. But it will take a little bit of work to get people organized and thinking about what really should go back into the time capsule.
Could even use that as part of your, pitch to, pick people's ideas about what to put in there if they were going to donate, something.
You could actually do it in the town newsletter, ask what people think should go into the time capsule.
Sure.
Might be a way to get a lot more people interested in what's going on.
And do you have to put a date specific when it would be reopened, or the new one? I don't know. They put 2000 here. I can see why, but.
Clearly,
If we put it in, it would just need to make sure that we let the town office know. I mean, I think no one knew it was there till we
That's
discovered
right.
it.
Yeah.
So that it's, on someone's reminder who's a lot younger than we are. That'll be around to open it in 25 or 50 years.
True.
I,
I
I,
will be down then.
I say use this Memorial Day to open it and then gather stuff until we dedicate the new part of it and then seal it back up when we dedicate the new part of it as part of that
And
celebration.
it makes sense to me.
I agree with that.
Good plan.
Okay, Jean,
That's actually what I was thinking also, Dan, it was an opportunity, and to do some fundraising, the kickoff part of it. But my question was, who originally put the time capsule in?
I have no idea. Obviously, the people that built it initially, and that was, Carol, when was that built? Do you know?
If you look at the plaque, I think the time capsule went in when it was built. I think Senator Collins came down and dedicated it. I'd have to go back and look at the plaque of when it was dedicated.
it was July 4, 1987.
Okay, so that would be, yeah. That's when I believe it all happened.
That's interesting that they wanted it only for 13 years. But we beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Maybe they were thinking of Y2K, thought everything was going to end.
Yeah.
Well, that could be.
That could be.
All right, I'll make that motion that we, on Memorial Day. Or
Second
or the
that.
group will do it, or Gary will open it, or whatever on Memorial Day. Somebody will.
Now we'll want to probably put a process in place for that because A, we don't know what's in there. B, we have to make sure whoever opens it is safe. Do you want members of the public there? I mean, normally the Memorial Day celebration is at the Old Town Hall, which we're moving forward with that this year. Would we then migrate to the Veterans Memorial?
That would be the only way I could see you could do it. Go from there down to the memorial, open the time capsule. It doesn't appear to be there's anything that's unsafe there. It's just this little hole in the back of this brick wall.
Okay. Jack?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when you open it up and if you put it back together again, have a couple of stainless steel screws available.
Yeah. Yeah, because the present ones are rusted.
Might not even be able to get it off.
Yeah.
Bring it
Well, you
in.
have to open it up
40.
first. We'll have to go take those screws out, or at least get them to the point where we can get them out.
And Jean?
Whoops, sorry. Just that if, when that does occur, if there was an opportunity that, we could provide some sort of live feed, maybe like a Zoom call or Facebook Live or something, for people who may not be able to attend. And that when we put the information in the newsletter, that if we could try to put some of the history of it also. That was just my suggestion.
So Melanie, FYI, Gina Coppins, who's with us tonight, messaged me to say Nancy and Marty Dion were the ones who spearheaded the memorial. So there's a little bit of history for you.
And Gina, you're taking notes for the newsletter, correct?
Absolutely.
All right. And then, so what else, Gary, were you saying? You're going to hit us up for money? Because I don't see that as part of the agenda item.
Should be an understood part.
He's talking about personal donations.
Yes, I am. Just email me the amount you're going to send. That would be fine. I would expect more from some of you than others, but whatever.
Gary, who do they make the checks payable to?
Don't make the checks payable. Just tell me an amount, please.
Oh, okay.
And I'll come back and talk to you. I would expect Anthony to give quite a bit, to tell you the truth.
Because he has a long history with Belgrade.
Oh, proud father of a Marine, so happy.
There you go. There you go. That's all I've got. I just wanted to tell you where we stood on it and get an answer on what we're going to do about the opening the little time capsule.
Great.
Thank
Do
you,
we
Gary.
know, do we know if that time capsule is in some kind of a container inside the hole, or if it's just stuff stuffed in there?
We don't know. Nobody's tried to open it. But before Memorial Day, I think probably a couple of us ought to go down and take those screws out and just take a peek and see.
If you find out it's something in a box, maybe we can set it up so that it's opened up on Memorial Day and then taken across the road over into the gazebo. You
Yeah,
could
that's
have
good.
more,
Yeah,
you could have more people gather over there.
that makes sense.
Yeah. And now I have here, do you want the piers to go higher than the walls in between the piers? Is that something you want us to weigh in
No,
on?
no.
No, okay,
No. It'll be the same size, the same height all the way across.
okay. All right,
Thank you for your time.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for yours.
Thank you for doing that, Gary.
I believe Rick made a motion, but I don't know that we got a second. And we
Well,
didn't
that's
get
why I
a
was just like, wait a minute, did we get all the way through that? So Rick made a motion.
Yeah,
And then-
Ernie had seconded.
Okay. All right, there's no more discussion. Ricky, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
Ricky, Dan, sorry.
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Ernie.
Yes.
All right, 5-4, 0 against. Next up, we have the discussion and consideration of a solar net energy billing proposal. I will take a motion to open that item and a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, Anthony, do you want to spearhead this one?
Yeah, I'll give you just a little brief background. Of course, we've talked about the net energy billing once or twice before. And when last we talked, some of the vendors we were looking at insisted upon 20-year contracts, and the board was not comfortable with that. Our practice is to have a contract no longer than 3 years. And so I talked to one of the vendors, Titan Energy, and they have a couple of representatives here tonight, Adam and Matt, and they are agreeable to a 3-year term with us, which would also include a 90-day out clause, which provides just a little added measure of safety in some people's minds. As a reminder, there'd be no cost to the town for this. We would be purchasing credits that would be applied to the town's electric bills that would amount to a 15% savings on our electric costs. And that's about $3,300 per year. Now, there is a little bit of a sense of urgency simply because there is pending state legislation that would either put a moratorium on net energy billing programs or end them altogether, because the legislature now in retrospect feels that they may be a bit too generous and that consumers do not directly benefit from that. However, our taxpayers would, in the amount of about $3,300 a year, if we were to enter into a net energy billing program. And as I said, there are 2 representatives here, Melanie, from Titan Energy, which is the outfit that we've been talking with.
Okay, welcome, Adam and Matt.
Thank you. Thank you. Definitely appreciate it.
I want to pause just for a moment. Carol, did you have something that you wanted to preface this with? Carol Johnson?
Yeah, no, I didn't. Somehow my hand got raised, but I didn't mean to. So
Okay. That's okay. I was like, okay, now you
happened. Okay.
So definitely appreciate that, Anthony, and the introduction. So when we started working with Anthony, this is Adam from Titan. We started working with Anthony a couple months ago to start exploring options. Titan's role in this process really is one of, we're kind of like an insurance agent in the sense that we go out to market for our clients to find the solar companies that have space in their arrays, have the most flexible contract terms, Really that sweet spot between maximizing how much you can save by participating in net energy billing while also making sure that the contract that you sign is agreeable to folks in town and it fits within your purchasing rules and, kind of your long-term strategy. So, I talked to a number of different vendors and I focused in on Consolidated Edison Solutions, Con Ed. They're actually a utility company that serves much of New York State, and they have a solar division of their company that owns and operates assets across the U.S. They're the number 2 asset owner by megawatts, which is just a way of thinking about what their portfolio size is. And they have a really great offer, which is kind of right in the sweet spot of this market of you get a guaranteed fixed discount of 15%. So there is zero risk that you would ever pay more for a credit than it's worth. And the value of those credits are indexed to the prevailing cost of electricity on CMP. So as prices rise, or for whatever reason, prices with CMP might fall, you still save that same percentage no matter what. So it's a really good plan for municipalities that don't want to assume any price risk. They just, they want a good solid savings number, no questions asked. And then in terms of the contract, Anthony and I had talked about this at length, and, with Con Ed and just the net energy billing program in general, there's the idea of a 20-year agreement, and then there's the idea of, well, you have a 90-day cancel policy. So just to kind of help square up these things a bit for everybody, the reason that, the 20-year idea is included is in part of the conversation with net energy billing is that some vendors, some, solar developers in this market will require their customers to sign an agreement that, subscribes them to the array for a 20-year period. And that's not what Con Ed does. For these types of accounts and for this opportunity in particular, they allow the customer to cancel the agreement at any time, just with 90 days notice. So you could be 1 day in, you could be 5 years in, you could be 15 years in, etc. 90 days notice. But that said, we can write the contract, and Con Ed is open to this, to have it be, a 3-year deal effectively. If you wish to stay with it, great. If you want to leave it, that's fine too. But that flexibility is there, and I know that was an issue for folks that I think we've gotten a good resolution for. And I believe maybe the other vendor that Anthony was talking to dropped out because their arrays are now fully subscribed. And I think this is, to speak to whatever sense of urgency there might be. This program has been in place now for almost 2 years, and the initial batch of projects, was finite. So as time's gone on, those projects have found subscribers, and as you kind of get to the end, it's almost like musical chairs. Like, you don't want to be the last person standing, when the music stops, who can't find a chair. But luckily, we have a really good option with Con Ed. They still have space within the 40 megawatts of arrays that they have throughout Maine. And it really is, these programs are created almost, in my mind, for municipalities because, you're going to be here for the long term. You have a responsibility to lower costs wherever you can, be more sustainable, et cetera. And we did look at the rooftops for public buildings in town. And unfortunately, there's just, there's no way that you could put enough solar on the roofs of the buildings in town to be able to produce the same kind of outcome here. And again, those contracts would require, if you were to do on-site solar, require one of two things. One, that you either buy the asset and own and operate it yourself, which I looked at the economics of that's, a 12 to 15-year payback, or you have a third party own and operate an asset and you lease it back. But that is for sure a 20-year contract with whoever owns that asset. So I think that falls outside the bounds of what the town would want to do. Therefore, that puts us back into the net energy billing realm of, 90-day cancel policy, nothing to maintain, no, maintenance obligations or any other costs associated with it, no investment up front. It's just 15% savings. Ride it out as long as you like. or cancel within 90 days. And it's really not much more complicated than that. So if anybody has questions, I'm certainly happy to answer that, but I know I was trying to squeeze this into a 15-minute period, at least for my presentation. So happy to answer questions if anybody has any.
What other towns do you have in the area that's doing this?
Yep, so we have, right now we're working with Belgrade, Lisbon, Wiscasset, Chelsea. Looks like we're going to be working with Winthrop pretty soon. Winslow. Matt, am I forgetting anybody?
You're muted, Matt.
Oh, yeah. Well, that you know. when Matt-
Wiscasset's another one. I live in Topsom. I'm just a little south here. I've been up to visit a couple times. I drive through every day. I'm local. No, I think Wiscasset was another one, right? Norway.
Yeah, I mentioned that. So those are just the ones that we working with Titan. You know, this has been an incredibly popular program in Maine, kind of across the board for other municipalities. You know, we're just one outfit. But I think, you know, you'd find that most folks in the municipal space, if you talk to them, they've engaged with a solar developer for a contract like this. I think it's a pretty safe assumption.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. This isn't costing the town anything. And from what I see, this is only has upside for the town in terms of saving electrical costs. So it seems kind of like a no-brainer to some degree that we agree with this, because it'll save the town. What was the figure? 3,000 something? Was that per year, or was that a?
Yeah, so I think by my calculation, based on the 15% discount and the allocations, it's about 4. And that's on an annual basis.
Sure.
All right, so Adam and Matt, I'm gonna ask the tough question, okay? Because you are sales people. There are pros and cons to everything. So you're here to share the pros with us. What are the cons?
Sure. And I'm a consultant, not a salesperson.
There,
Okay.
there are none.
You are forgiven. You are forgiven. So here's the major stumbling block with these programs, which in this particular case, I think we've eliminated, which is good. But it's the idea that a developer would, you know, have you do a 20-year agreement. And a lot of folks can't do that. Municipalities even sometimes don't want to do that. So luckily we've eliminated that. But in an effort to meet you halfway on the question, the major thing that you want to be aware of with net energy billing is that when you set up these agreements, they are structured so that credits flow to, you know, certain accounts in town. I think in this case, you know, one of the biggest was the street lights, town hall. I'd have to go back. I've been thinking more account numbers, but I have to look, you know, the actual addresses. And you just want to keep track over time. And of course, you know, as I've said to Anthony, and you know, happily say it again here, you know, we view the relationship with our client as one that's a, you know, long-term process, and that, you know, we're always here to help if you ever need to, you know, shift an allocation from one account to another. So let's say, you know, one of the buildings that you have credits flowing to now, you shut it down, or there's a new meter, or you want to send those credits elsewhere. You know, sometimes it can be helpful to have somebody like us, you know, on board to help you do that. So you're not just left, you know, with the credits going nowhere, so to speak. So if we ever have to tinker with those allocations over time, you know, that just takes some time and attention on the town's part to know that, okay, if we're going to be doing something different, if we're getting a new meter at the town hall and it's going to, you know, trip up the credit flow, you just have to be aware of those things. So, you know, to say you can simply set it and forget it is not exactly true, because you want to keep an eye on these things, and you want to make sure that you're getting what you were supposed to get. But, you know, other than that, it's really, you know, with the 90-day cancel policy, the fixed discount, you know, I hate the phrase no brainer, because, you know, everything requires at least a little bit of brains. But I think we've identified a good vendor. We have a good contract. The fixed discount protects you. You just got to keep an eye on it. And we're here, obviously, but we want you to also be, self-sufficient in how you track these things and stuff. So there may come a time where you need some customer service assistance, whether that's through Con Ed or Titan. And look, I mean, it's.
Is there a cost to customer service?
No. Mm-mm.
No. Okay. Dan.
Yeah, are you guys basically a buy and sell company, or are you actually own the hardware of some of these solar farms?
Yeah, so Con Ed, who's the owner operator of the array, they own their fleet as part of their business model. So Con Ed they are headquartered in New York, but they own renewable energy assets really all throughout the world. And they've been a pretty major player in the main market, and their business model is to originate these projects and then own and operate them through their useful life. So throughout the term that you would stay with this plan, you would see Con Ed's name on the invoice every month. They wouldn't flip the array to some other third-party entity or holding company, etc. So
Are you part of Con Ed, or are you a different company though, is what I'm getting at?
Oh, no, I am not affiliated with Con Ed. My role is to help my clients find the right plan in the net energy billing space for them. And in this case, Con Ed, based on savings, certainty, and the flexibility, is the recommendation that I'm making to the town as a good partner for this program.
Okay, so basically you guys are the middlemen.
Yeah, it's kind of like an insurance agent. Like if you needed an insurance policy, you presumably work with someone who could help align you with the right policy. I wouldn't be your insurance carrier per se in that analogy. We're more your expertise to kind of help navigate through it, because we understand that energy billing is still pretty unfamiliar to folks. It's almost 2 years old in terms of when the program originated, but most people have never dealt with it before, and weren't sure how to get good deals and how to structure these agreements. So that's why we are here in this market.
Okay. Well, the reason I wanted to ask is I just didn't know if you owned a bunch of the solar farms or not, because I have more concerns on the recyclability of this stuff when it gets to its end of life. So
yeah, I hear you. But no, Titan is not the owner operator.
All right, Jean.
So, 2 questions. One is, how do you get paid? I mean, who pays you? And 2 is, if, like Anthony said, that the Maine legislature is basically going to be putting you guys out of business, how are you going to continue?
Yeah, 2 very valid questions. The first one is that, like an insurance agent, our fee is built into the project cost for whoever you choose to go with. So when we put out that RFP to get quotes for the town, our fee was included in that. Amounts to about $1,500. So for going back and forth for a couple months and doing this work and getting the the agreements lined up and stuff is a pretty fair compensation when you break it down by time. And that's the responsibility of, and this is for any municipality we work with, really any customer, that we do the upfront work, we make the recommendations, we bring the vendors to the table, get the agreements lined up, and the town has total freedom to either take the offer that we present or say no thanks. So that's how we are compensated.
So does Con Ed pay you then for?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so you are, you're bringing customers to them basically, and you save us money and you sell for them and they pay you to do that.
So, but just to clarify, because when we go out and get bids for different vendors to, take a look at the opportunity and then submit a bid for it, every vendor that participates in that process has the same responsibility if they are selected to compensate Titan. So it's, we run our process and structure our fee that way on purpose, because a lot of times municipalities, they would rather us do that work first and bring the offer to you, as opposed to paying us first and saying, yeah, okay, bring us something interesting. And I think it works well that way because it keeps us aligned throughout the process. But I would want to make it clear that there's nothing specifically unique about the way Con Ed would pay Titan. It would be specific to, or that those same rules would apply to anybody who is ultimately selected from this process to partner with you.
Now, so you picked Con Ed for the town of Belgrade, is what you're saying. Was it based on they were offering the lowest rate to the town of Belgrade, or were you receiving a bigger part of the payback?
Yeah, I understand the question. And just to say it again, our fees are the same across any vendor pool that we would select from. Con Ed was selected for two reasons. One, they had the most favorable discount rate. I think there was another vendor that Anthony was talking to that had the same discount rate, but they needed a 20-year contract. And one of the benefits of Con Ed too is they're willing to do the 90-day cancellation policy. So instead of forcing you into a 20-year commitment, they're willing to do that exact same deal at 15% discount on a 90-day cancel policy.
So the contract is with Con Ed, not with you?
Exactly. The Con Ed is the vendor. They own the array. They are the ones who, think of it like this. Like if you needed an insurance policy, work with an insurance broker, they'll go talk to Geico, State Farm, Allstate, Joe Schmo Insurance Company, whoever it is. And they'll come back to you and say, okay, here are your options. This is the best based on the criteria that we talked about up front, knowing that you want to maximize the financial performance of the contract and also make sure that the terms of the agreement are favorable. And from that process emerged a clear winner, Con Ed, which again, even relative to the other option that Anthony had that I think just came to him on a cold call basis. Con Ed was the most advantageous choice for the town. Does that make sense?
Well, it's a bit over my head, but I kind of get what you're saying, I think.
Yeah, and just the second question that you had too is important just to clarify too, because Titan, we've been in business for 20 years now, and we do work all over the country. Matt is our primary agent up in Maine, and we do a number of different things beyond just net energy billing consultations. So Titan will live to see another day, even if the net energy billing program disappears entirely. It's not going to disappear entirely. There's already enough traction in the state now with renewable energy and some of the goals that the governor and the legislature want to push forward. But what is going to happen is that they're going to change the program rules, and most likely they're going to try to steer these projects, because this is the same song and dance that happens in every market. It opens up, it's really lucrative. The first responders to the program, if you will, the first folks to get
early in,
always do very, very well, because there's the programs are meant to excite people and get quick progress, which is what's happened. I mean, Maine's renewable energy, the amount of renewable energy on Maine's power grid has shot up by like 2,000% over the last 3 years. So it's working, but what they're going to do is they're going to steer projects towards different kinds of sites like landfills and things like that, which are more expensive, yet it just costs more to build. They're probably going to require that some form of energy storage be coupled with these projects, which again, more costs the project. And I think they're going to try to wean back the money that they're paying participants to try to just slow down some of what's been going on. Because again, you read some of the headlines and you have legislators openly questioning whether the program's too generous or not. So the net energy program will exist into the future in some state, but we're going to be in an in-between phase here pretty soon. And these first batch of projects will be all spoken for eventually. So what I'm trying to make sure is any town that we're working with right now is positioned to get into this first round. And again, if anything better were to come down the line with that 90-day cancel policy, there's absolutely no reason why the town, in 2 years from now, if for some reason, history goes a different way and these programs get better, then you're total liberty to go and pursue the next best thing, presumably with Titan's help or even without Titan's help. So, and with that, I think is a real big advantage where you're not completely locked into anything.
So I just want to check in, Adam, and just be sure that I'm clear.
Sure.
So a contract executed would be with Con Ed.
Exactly.
But our representatives would continue to be you and Matt, or would we be assigned one? And if one of you folks left, would be someone from Titan who would still be around to answer town questions.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely.
And we view this as consultative long-term relationship. There's other things that Titan does, so eventually down the road, that makes sense if Belgrade, whether it's energy efficiency or managing electricity supply costs, et cetera, we're here for that. Matt's been in the energy business now for, I think, 7 years, Matt?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 7 years. I've been at Titan for 10 myself. We're a 20-year-old company with 35 employees. We're very much entrenched in the state of Maine. So we're not going anywhere. And, we view it, again, as a partnership. And Con Ed's there too. So I think you get sort of two tiers or two resources for customer service, because, Con Ed's going to want to keep you happy and keep you on the contract. They know that you can leave. And we want to make sure that you're, equally happy as well, because, we know this is new territory for folks, and everyone wants to see it be a success. So
now down the road, Adam, would there be a chance if, say, it were super successful and there's a shift, and instead of 15%, say 17% savings would benefit the town? Much like my insurance agent does. I've been with him for 23 years. So he will call me and say, hey, it's time for your annual review, and we're going to stay with this company for this, but this one's going to give us, the same quality, but it's going to cost you $50 less a year. Are you folks, or Matt, would you be the one who would come to the town and say, listen, would we have to renegotiate a contract at that point? Or would there be, is there any chance for it to be a better deal for the town than 15%? Or would we be likely at some point in time to see less than 15%?
Yep. So, yep, totally understood. So much like an insurance agent, if there is a better plan for you, we will be the first to tell you. Will that happen? It's very hard to say, because, I don't like to say that things can't happen. I mean, anything could happen. But the way things are trending and the way that, as we're watching what's going on in the legislature, it doesn't seem like it will get better. But if it does, that's what we're here for. We don't view this as, a one shot and we're done. On the upside, you can stay with this plan for up to 20 years if you want, because that's the useful life of the array. When the array is decommissioned, then your credits would go away, because the source of that energy production would go away too. So that's the maximum. So let's say that it never got better. The way that the program was structured right out of the gate was the best it would ever be. You could ride this thing out until 2041 if you wanted, or if in 2 years from now the state says, hey, look, we're changing the program. It's not getting worse. It's actually getting a little better. then you give Con Ed 90 days notice. And again, we'd be the first to raise our hand and say, hey, look, you may want to consider this array or that array or this contract. You give Con Ed the 90 days notice, you're free and clear, move on, you can move on to the next thing.
And would it be like something yearly that you folks would take a look at it? Like, I'm just trying to figure out, like,
Yeah.
if 5 years in, or you're like, we haven't heard anything from Belgrade in 5 years, so they're good.
That will never happen with me as your rep, I can say. I'm very communicative. I mean, I'm sorry to jump in, but
yeah,
I'm not going to be annoying, but I'm very hands-on, and I'm right here. I have a lot of clients in Maine, and yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Adam, go ahead.
No, I would just say that, the extent to which the opportunities would arise for the town to do something different will be entirely dictated by public policy. And, that could mean we have a significantly different program in a year from now. It could mean we have a significantly different program 3 years from now. It's unpredictable in that sense because it's politically driven in a lot of respects. I mean, you could see even just the change in governorship from, one to the other. It's like a night and day renewable energy policy. We kind of march to that drummer, whatever policy wise is happening, that's what we will do. For some of the other services we offer, like energy procurement on the energy supply side, typically you'd have a contract that would be like a year or 2 or 3, and you have a really dynamic market. So that, I think if we think about that line of business for Titan, that is something that, we could be in contact every 6 months or so. With net energy billing, I kind of view it like, we'll have regular check-in intervals with you to make sure that the credits are flowing, they're aligned, with your expenses, and that everything's going smoothly. But from as we're advising you on to stay with Con Ed or not stay with Con Ed, that will be, like I said, policy-driven, kind of unpredictable intervals. But that's what we're here for. And much like your insurance agent, being with you for the long haul, we view these relationships as the same way. Most people, when they do these agreements, they tend to stick around as long as they possibly can, simply because when they look around to alternatives, they tend to not be as good as what people currently have. But you never know, things could change. And either way, we're here, and I want to make sure everybody feels really comfortable and confident in that fact, because it's important for us. I think we've got a pretty good kind of working relationship with Anthony that we've established over the last couple months, maybe back since November or so. And we view ourselves in that way as, we're on your side here. We're, your tip of the spear for customer service and expertise. And, I want you to feel comfortable that you can lean on us for that.
Hey, Anthony, can you shoot my phone number to both of them? I'd like to actually have one of you guys, or both of you, give me a call and talk to me a little bit about what you think about the legislation that's going on.
So Adam and Matt, so Adam and Matt, just so you guys know, Selectman Newman is also State Representative Newman, representing our area.
Great. Cool.
All right, Jean, did you have something?
Yes, and I promise I'll make it quick. I don't understand the whole power grid thing, but are we gonna be purchasing electricity from Con Ed in New York?
Okay. So the answer to that question is no. So Con Ed would be the developer and the owner operator of the asset that is located in Maine. So per the net energy billing program rules, and this is one of the great features of this program, is that you ratepayers, so just, whether you're a homeowner, municipality, private enterprise, etc., everybody has equal access to this program. And the energy that is produced from these arrays are from arrays that are located in Maine, so in CMP's service territory. But they don't have to be in your backyard. They don't even have to be in your town. They just have to be located on CMP's power grid. And what you're receiving from the array, because the energy from the array itself is going just back out into the power grid. So those, you know, kind of high tension lines, you know, when we think of like the power grid, you know, just going back out into the distribution system that's owned and operated by CMP. But the output from the array is metered, and the financial value of that energy is what gets applied to your bills. Because you're not physically connected to it, the best that CMP can do is give you the monetary value for that energy. And that goes right to your CMP bill every month and basically pays your CMP bills. You know, you do receive an invoice from Constellation for your share of that credit. So if you have a 15% discount, think of it like this: you get $100 from Con Ed applied to your CMP bill. You turn around and you pay Con Ed $85 for that. That's how the general, you know, structure of this program is set up. If that helps. So it's local, you know, Maine local power arrays, energy going back out to the grid. You receive the credits. You pay for the credits at a discount.
Okay, so the only other thing is, Anthony, I mean, if we were to enter into a contract with them, that would not negate any other deal, like with the CMP transmission power line, anything it has nothing, it wouldn't affect that at all, correct? Is that right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right. There's no more questions.
So Melanie, if the board wants to pursue this further, what I would recommend is that we have Titan Energy send us a contract, and then we have the town's attorney review that contract, because these are very technical, complex documents. When I spoke to Messalonsky Hydro, which is the net energy program partner for RSU 18, he encouraged me that whatever we do, we should really get the town's attorney to review the contract. So I would suggest, if the board is interested in pursuing this, we get a contract from Titan Energy, submit it to the town's attorney for his review. And then once he has reviewed that contract, then the board could consider approval of the contract at that time.
I'd recommend a little different. I'd like to get the contract, have us take a look at it and talk a little bit more about it and get a price on what it's going to cost to have the town attorney review it. Because I don't want to pay the attorney more than we're going to save.
Okay.
I got a question too. I mean, is our contract going to be different than Wiscasset's and all the other towns?
Well, it would be, because in those cases, we selected different vendors. So those were larger deals that required a 20-year commitment. And, you know, it's not the same contract. For this type of deal, it's a fairly boilerplate, you know, standardized contract. I think any attorney that has some experience with net energy billing or contracts like this should be able to get through it in about 5 hours tops, I would say. It's probably, you know, it's the Con Ed contract. And again, I've seen tons of different agreements for net energy billing before. I've seen some that are 50 pages long. And then I've seen some like Con Ed's, which are about 12 pages long. And a lot of the reason for the bigger contracts is because it's a much bigger deal by volume, by dollar volume and energy volume. There's 20-year commitments involved. It's just kind of a different animal. This is a little bit more kind of off the shelf in terms of the actual document. And I think you'd find that, you know, it might not be as complex as maybe the deal that a school system might sign with a hydro plant. Just a little bit different. So that's just my 2 cents.
So in other words, no other town has ever done the 3-year contract. Am I correct?
When you say the 3-year, what I'm referring to is, it's sort of like when, you have like an energy commodity deal, like if you're, buying your supply for energy, suppliers tend to have a very, kind of standardized contract for like small commercial deals. And then they have different contracts for larger commercial deals that might be, have some really specific aspects to them that just require more documentation. I know Con Ed has done tons of these deals throughout Maine, so I'm not really concerned about that. But we, the agreement that I asked to put together for Belgrade was one that was structured as, the 3-year deal, not the 90-day out, and the rest would be all basically kind of standard boilerplate stuff. So I can certainly get you guys copies of that. That's, zero issue on my end.
So in other words, you're telling me no other town has got one like this in the state of Maine?
I've personally never worked with a town that had the 3-year requirement. Most have been comfortable with saying, yeah, this is just a 90-day out clause. We can stay with it as long as we'd like, or, cancel in 90 days. So this was a little bit unique for me, but the rest of the language is all very standard and kind of boilerplate. So, with the deals that we've done before, we've used different vendors because those deals were 20-year deals, kind of different beast. But, Con Ed has done a number of these. So
Why did we do, if we had the 90-day out, why did we limit it to a 3-year deal?
I don't know.
That was a question, Dan, that I raised at the time, is that essentially, we could get out of it anytime we wanted to, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, somewhere in between. But the board, when we talked about this previously, just felt like there was just a discomfort level with a 20-year agreement. And I have talked with some of my peers across the state who have engaged in these net energy billing contracts, and at least all the other town managers that I've spoken to, their communities have signed the 20-year agreement. So this is a little something different. And I think, when I spoke with Adam about it, he had to sort of go on a bit of a fishing expedition to see if he could find a provider who would agree to a 3-year term.
Now, but if we wanted,
well, can I just for everybody's sake, just real quick, and I don't want to eat up too much of people's time, but something just really important, I think, to clarify. The Con Ed is offering an agreement that you can cancel at any time with 90 days notice. The whole 20-year thing is just to say that the contract can last up to 20 years because that is the useful life of the array. So to call it a 20-year agreement is a little bit kind of mischaracterizing a bit, because it's you have that 90-day cancel policy. So it could be a 90-day agreement, it could be a 2-year agreement, it could be a 20-year agreement, but no more than 20, because that's when the system would likely be decommissioned. So I just want to make sure that that's clear to everybody, that you have that protection in this agreement, 90-day cancel. So to impose a 3-year deal on yourself is almost kind of like making it, you're giving yourself less flexibility. So I would just encourage everybody to think like, okay, we have a 90-day cancel policy. That is our window of exit, and you can stay with the agreement as long as 20 years if you like, or 2 years in, you say, you know what, we're going to go, sign up with net energy billing too, and, get 20% or something, so I just would encourage everybody to think about it in those terms, not necessarily get hung up on the idea that it's a 20-year agreement, because it's really a 90, to say it's a 20-year agreement would imply that you have to stay with it for 20 years,
well,
which isn't the case.
Well, and Adam, I think that was my concern last time, was the 20-year agreement, and it wasn't a 90-day out clause. And it felt like we didn't have a right to sign an agreement that was greater than any of the other agreements that we sign in town, because the face of the board changes.
Yep.
And did we have a right to sign an agreement that a good chunk of us might not be around, at the time that this was up? But if we put ourselves in a 3-year agreement, then would we be renegotiating with you at 3 years? Or would there be the possibility of, at the end of 3 years, you come back to the town and say, listen, the end of this is coming up. Do you want to extend it 5 years? Or is that a possibility? Or would we come back to the drawing board and be renegotiating?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I just the way that the template Con Ed contract is written is it's a 90-day cancel policy. So you could set this thing to kind of an artificial termination, if you will, at 3 years. And typically if you were going to do that, it would auto renew, it would be 3 years with an auto renew provision unless you cancel. So my best advice to the town is the agreement in its template form allows you, at any time, 90 days, you can bail. You wouldn't have to wait 3 years to bail if for some reason, you wanted to do that. If you let this thing go, just let it ride. You could stay with it up to 20 years if you decide. So you really have kind of ultimate flexibility in terms of what you do over the long term. Is that helpful? Does that make sense?
Well, it is, but at this point, if we did every 3 years and let it ride, and it was technically a 3-year contract, we wouldn't see 20 years. We'd get to 18 and then would we be cut at 18?
Well, it'd be like a 3-year auto renew every year after year 3, if you wanted to do it that way. But again, it's kind of arbitrary because it's still, you're imposing a limit on yourself if you do a 3-year deal with a 1-year term. And again, we can structure this any way that you guys want. I just want to make sure that, as your consultant, I'm explaining in kind of no uncertain terms what your rights are. And in the template form, call it Constellation, Con Ed, tell them, 90 days, we're out. They say, okay, click, that's the epitome of flexibility right there.
Okay.
What happens in 3 years if the state changes this?
You are grandfathered in. So whether
even if our thing cancels in 3 years, they wouldn't consider it a renewal and not allow it at the same rate?
If you stay with this plan with Con Ed, it'll just, be self-perpetuating basically with an auto renew. You would be grandfathered into the program, so you're not at risk of losing what you've got. But if you call Con Ed and say, yeah, I'm giving my 90 days, and they take you off of the array, so off of the contract, and then you go back out into the market, you can't go backward and then reclaim this stuff. So that's why I recommend to people like, look, we can structure this to read any way, and it'll read any way that you like, but that 90-day cancel policy is really your ticket to doing whatever you want.
Self-determination.
So Melanie, Mary just sent me a chat message.
I was just going to grab her. I was waiting
Yeah.
for Ian to finish and then.
So she's our repository of institutional knowledge. And she writes that the town has a forever warrant article that limits the boards to entering into a contract for no more than 3 years. And the board cannot enter into a contract longer than that without the authority, the board cannot enter into a contract without the authority of the legislative body's approval. So,
So, yeah, and it's not a forever warrant article, Anthony. It's just,
okay.
it's a warrant article. So, yeah, we can't commit the taxpayers to a contract for longer than 3 years. And so that's why you see most of our contracts are 3 years or less. It's not that the board changes, it's not a board decision, it's the decision of the legislative body to allow the board to be able to enter into a long-term contract.
So Mary, a question for you then. Do you think it would be allowable if we had a 3-year rolling contract like Adam just suggested, and on an annual basis, the board ratify that 3-year term so that we maintain a 3-year term unless and until the board decides to end the contract by exercising the 90-day out clause?
I think that would be a way to get by it, yes. Yeah, without going, or you could go to the, taxpayers and you could ask to enter into a longer term contract. That's another option.
And I think that was the reason that we did the 3-year, because previously we didn't have multi-year contracts and there were certain things that.
Right. Well, it started with when we contracted the center for the Alphon, when the Alphons came in and ran our center. And so that's when the 3-year contract came in, because we were redoing a contract annually and they extended all contracts to 3 years.
Well, and the other was the sand and salt.
Yes.
Because we were negotiating for a 3-year term versus, every year we could be looking at a big escalator.
Right.
Yeah. So this is really an easy thing for me to solve with Con Ed. I know that they have no problem doing it this way. So, a 3-year deal, auto renew every year with the 90-day cancel policy. I know that they will do this. So that's not a problem for me whatsoever. I know it's not a problem for Con Ed because we've already talked about it. So if that's what the town needs to comply with purchasing rules and contract rules, that is 100% fine with me. I just want to make sure that everybody understood, generally how, what your rights are in this agreement as far as canceling.
So, but my thought, Adam, with the renewing every 3 years, 3 times 6 is 18. So we would hit 18 years and we would not have an option for a 3-year renewal, because then that would put us at 21 years. And the life expectancy of the energy production on the grid is 20.
Yeah, so it would be a 3-year initial term and then an annual auto renew after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm hip to the program. So,
and you can claim, and not even, and I don't mean this in any, you can say that, the town of Belgrade has, this is an energy conservation, this is a sustainability measure that you can promote as, and I can help you, phrase it and how you want to do it. But I always recommend to folks in your shoes that this is something worth, promoting as an accomplishment and, a sustainability move, which is real. Because this array doesn't get built without subscribers, and this energy, whether these panels were on your roof or out in a field 10 miles away, the net effect is the same. So it's a pretty bold and admirable sustainability move to do something like this. So, if we get through this process, you guys want some help kind of framing it so taxpayers could know, what you want to do or what you've done and what the sustainability impact of that is for Maine as a state. I can certainly help you do that.
So Adam, it would be helpful, I guess. So we would have 2 bills. So the CMP bill comes in, and Mary, that's broken down. Is there a different account? Do we have one CMP account and then it's broken down by location, or each location has a different account number?
It's the latter, Melanie.
Okay.
Yeah, and we allocate these credits proportionally based on, we did an analysis of the town CMP bills and went through, see, what the energy use, what the costs have been, and we would tailor the credit flow to those various accounts based on that.
So then what happens, Adam? So let's say the town office has heat pumps. So that's going to be a higher electricity spot in town. So then the town office account number, you're going to get your CMP bill. And how is that going to look different? So how can we then explain to the taxpayers that we are certain that we're seeing a 15% reduction in what it's costing us in electricity? Like, how are those numbers going to appear in a way that we can decipher them and pass that information on?
Yeah. So what you see on your CMP bill, or what you will see, is simply just a line item credit. So you have a whole bunch of line item charges for CMP. You'll have a one line that your net energy billing credit. So you'll see that dollar amount go right to the bill.
Okay.
And the way that you pay for that is that, as we talked about, Con Ed will send you an invoice for that amount discounted by 15%. So to use just the round number example, let's say the month of July, you get a $100 credit on your streetlight accounts. August, you'll get a bill from Con Ed for $85. So you basically just, it's kind of like, you think about, like, you just bought a dollar bill for 85 cents, kind of, it's, you get that credit that goes right to your CMP bill. You pay for it the next month at a discount. And that difference between the credit you receive and what you pay for it, that is the savings that the town gets to keep.
Okay, what's the maximum number of accounts that could utilize the credit?
Yeah, so technically it could be unlimited, but we just focused on, I think, the half dozen largest, just to try to keep this thing manageable. Because, before you talked about what are the drawbacks, one of the drawbacks, one of the things I like to try to help my clients avoid is, you don't want to be sending, nickels and dimes all over the place. You probably have some really, well, you do have some very small CMP accounts that, like, $20 a month, whatever. From a bookkeeping perspective, you'd expend more energy trying to keep track of all that stuff than you would get in benefit of savings. So we've just isolated out the top half dozen accounts for town that would receive the credits. And it's, just an easier way to manage it.
Which I assume would be town office, food pantry, community center, probably at least the main fire station and things like that.
Yeah, and the street lights too. Street lights are the biggest.
Street lights are down to what, 13,000 for the year, right? Is that? Oh no, we're less than that now, right? With the
Yeah, so
LED.
it previously was about 10,000, and I think we're down to about 8,000.
Okay, because that's going to be the other question too. So then is it going to be up to someone in the town office to? So you won't get, so let's say we have, essentially what you pay Con Ed is going to go retroactive to the bill that you receive from CMP the month prior.
Yes, you'll get your credit, and then that'll land on your CMP bill, and then you will get an invoice from Con Ed for the next month the next month for that credit value,
Okay.
minus 15%.
I'm just thinking budgeting purposes for the folks that are doing that in the town office, so that they're, because we're going to ask them.
So here's what I recommend that people do. I think this, doing this for a while and seeing people try to anticipate things right out of the gate, and how do you educate people on how this is all going to work. The recommendation I make to everybody is, the first year that you get these credits, don't budget anything differently. You're gonna, if you're getting that 15% discount throughout the course of the year, you are going to save that money. But give yourself a year with the same budget number to get through this, to see how it goes. And that way you can start to really fine tune, how much you set aside exactly for Con Ed and how much you set aside exactly for CMP. I can give you those numbers right out of the gate. From experience, I've found that if you for the first year anyway, just, if you allocate every year $50,000, which I don't know if I think that's high for Belgrade, but keep setting aside that next fiscal year, keep that number in place. Because what could happen too is, this based on the construction of the array, and as of right now, with Con Ed's queue, they're looking for credits to begin flowing at the start of Q1 2022. So, that's halfway through your fiscal year anyway. So I just recommend folks like, look, ease your way into this thing. And you can really start to dial in exactly, how things are going to look once you get a couple months or a year under your belt. You'll still have those savings, but you will reduce your risk of inadvertently like under budgeting and something
Right.
like, because the truth about electricity costs is, sometimes we can have a particularly hot summer, and that could crank, people's energy bills up higher. So I'm sure your energy budget has some cushion in it anyway, just to account for, weather related differences and stuff. But, that's just one way to do it. That's the way I recommend that people do it as you get used to, how these things work in the future.
Yeah. All right. I genuinely thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the time that you've put into it. And
Yeah, absolutely.
honestly, and as a board member and as a taxpayer, I'm happy, with a 90-day out clause. That if for some reason it isn't what we think it's going to be, that we do have a way to get out of it, and we don't have to let it ride for 20 years, but we can if we want. So,
Right.
that to me looks like a win-win-win all the way around. So
Yeah.
I'm comfortable making the recommendation that you folks draw up a contract to bring forward to one of our next select board meetings so that the select board can take a look at it and offer, any thoughts that they may have. Is there tweakability to it, or are they like a standard contract and what we see is what we're going to get? And then when we bring that forward, is it possible, like, if we were to have questions, could you folks come to another one once we've had a chance to take a look at it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. And I think the answer to the tweakability aspect of the contracts is that I think Con Ed's position on it is there are certain things that they just need in there for whatever reason. But if we're dialing into like the real impactful parts of that contract for the town, like the cancellation clause, that's clearly front and center on how this contract needs to be structured. Some of the rest of it, like, it's just kind of boilerplate language. I don't foresee a bunch of issue with it because, after all, this is really more of a financial transaction than like a construction agreement or
Right.
some other form of agreement like that. So it reads very similarly to how like an energy supply contract might read. There's like legalese kind of strewn in, but the tenets of the agreement are like, okay, we have a fixed discount. We know our cancellation policy. We know, event of default, if, we stop paying, constantly, Con Ed could drop us, all these sorts of things.
I was just gonna ask that, is there anything that would make Con Ed drop out?
Well, if you stop paying them, they would take that allocation and give it to somebody else. Yeah.
All right.
Standards. Yeah.
Just kidding.
Nothing wild. They love, the part of the reason why they're being so flexible is that they, municipal off-takers on these agreements are highly sought after because you're creditworthy, you're stable, you always pay your bills, and for them it's a low risk contract. That's why they're willing to say, yeah, okay, fine, you want to give us 90 days, okay. They wouldn't do that for a private business or any other entity. That's really kind of like, okay, your municipality will go the extra mile to try to get the deal done. So
Okay. All right, so I will I started to make a motion, then I asked questions. I will make a
okay,
motion
we're here.
that Titan Energy draft a contract with the town of Belgrade to be brought forth at our next meeting, give the board a chance to review it. And if one or both of you would be available for that meeting, then at that point, the board could decide yes or no, and then move it forward for legal review if we feel that that's the next step.
Sure. Yep, that works for us.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Second that motion.
Thanks.
Does this mean that there's going to be a 50-page legal agreement that we're going to have to review before the next meeting?
No,
No.
I, 12.
Yeah, luckily this is a fairly boilerplate thing for Con Ed. It's, 12 pages. Some of those pages are just kind of like, just, I don't know, fluff. So it's no one will drown in a legal document for this. So, yeah, and I'll get it to you guys as, I've already basically got the agreement from Con Ed kind of worked out. So I'll get it to everybody in a as quickly as possible, as quickly as they'll turn it around to me, so everybody has adequate time to take a look at it.
I was just going to say, as soon as I receive it, I will forward it to the board so you guys can start reviewing it as soon as possible.
Okay, perfect. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? All right, seeing none. Rick, what's your pleasure?
Yes,
Barbara,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
5 yeses.
All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Yeah.
See ya.
Have a good evening, unless you want to keep hanging out.
I got chicken
I gotta
wings
eat
over in
dinner.
the kitchen. I'm gonna go.
Ah.
Yeah.
Good
Okay.
evening, guys.
See you guys.
Have a good night.
Bye.
All right, next up is the consideration of the renewal of the PSAP or Public Safety Answering Point contract with Somerset County. I'll take a motion, to open that item.
Make that
Yeah.
motion.
Moved and
Second.
seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, that item is open. The current
I
2
don't, I really don't think you got any really to talk about on this. I mean, we gotta have it and it's the only one available, so, no brainer.
Yep.
I'll make the motion, we accept it.
Now, Rick,
Second.
there's 2 options. There's a 2-year agreement, which is $235 and then jumps to $248. Can we do a 1-year agreement with them, Anthony, or is it just the 2-year? Is that the only option?
Yeah, they're only offering a 2-year and then the price just escalates the second year.
Okay. All right, then. All
I
right,
didn't think there was any change, so.
I know, we kind of have to have them,
I
because,
know.
yeah, this is one of those ones we don't have any options. All
Add
right,
it to the list.
yeah, moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All right, seeing none. Ernie,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes,
Melanie, yes. I call myself, that was weird. All right, next up on the agenda, we have the warrant. I'll take a motion to open that.
so be it.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, Anthony, would you do the honors?
Yes, ma'am. This is warrant number 49 in the amount of $623,995.81.
All right, that is open. Is there any discussion?
That leaf vac, was that something that was budgeted this year, or did we just have to go replace something, or?
Yeah, it was something that was budgeted, Dan, just to help with the keeping of the grounds.
What was it, Dan?
The leaf vacuum.
I must have missed that one. Who's that under? Is it power? Oh, the lawn and leaf vac. So did we purchase it or did we rent it?
No, it's a purchase.
So there's 2. One is 1,000 and one is $499.
No, it is one piece of equipment, and then the cost is split between the cemetery and then the rest of the grounds, because it'll be used for both.
Gotcha. All right. Any more questions, concerns?
Good to me.
I didn't even get it. I had my highlighter ready too, and then I didn't say anything.
I would have highlighted the one for the school, but guess we can't avoid that.
No, I figure people paid for my kids. And the last thing I want is them running our town and not getting a good education.
Wait till we start getting the county budget this year.
Yeah, you just shh over there.
Yeah,
Uh,
what gets me though is they're getting something like $23 million from the federal government.
And let me guess, you can't spend it on anything that you're currently involved in or anything like that. You should come up with a new special project for that money.
They will, guarantee you.
Yeah,
Well, and speaking of that, I will, there is an opportunity to learn more about that a week from Thursday, I believe it is. So anyway, actually a week from tomorrow. So when I find the link to that meeting, I will forward it to you guys for anyone who's interested.
all right, if there's no more discussion, Ricky, what's your pleasure?
Yes,
Dan,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. All right, next up, we have the town manager's report.
All right, so we had a meeting of the roads committee last week, and there was a request from a citizen for striping the roads during some of the really foggy period. She had a lot of difficulty one night getting down the West Road. And so the road committee talked about the possibility of striping town roads. Jason Stevens, our road commissioner, priced it, and the cost is about 10 cents per foot. So that'd be about $528 per mile. The roads committee agreed that this is something that they would like to consider doing in the future, and thought that, you know, maybe a good test of this would be to stripe one of our newly paved roads, either the Wings Mills or the Bartlett Road. And I provided the cost for you for that. They're about the same length. That would be paid from this year's maintenance budget. Jason felt confident that that would be a cost to be very easily involved. And moving forward, we might want to include striping in the 2022 paving bond project. But that would be something that would be for future consideration. And one of the roads committee members said if we wanted to continue to do more striping, we could put that to the voters as part of the 2022 budget. So really they wanted your thoughts as to, you know, first off, is this something that you have any interest in? And if so, should we start off by striping one of the newly paved roads from last year?
So I will say the last time that this came up, that the general consensus was, and I believe this was actually quoted, was that we are rural. That there was a lot of cost involved to striping the roads and renewing that on a yearly basis. And that the consensus at the time was that we were only going to stripe certain spots, certain roads where it was windy or hilly, that there were certain areas that were going to be done, but as an overall for the town, that it was not a cost that we wanted to enter into on a yearly basis.
Yeah, and I don't think that the thought was that we would restripe every road on an annual basis, that there would be a rotation with some number of years between.
Oh, the ones on those little spots you do right over here on the West Road, you need to do them pretty much every year.
Yeah.
How many miles of road do we have in town?
Oh golly, Dan. So for summer maintenance, I believe it's 35. And then for winter maintenance, it's a little bit more than that because, you know, we have some state aid roads.
Okay, so if we had, say, 40.
I'm gonna say 43 is a number, but
Oh, well, okay, we'll say 45 times 528. So you're talking an annual budget of say $25,000.
Yeah, and I don't think that the intention was that we would spend $25,000 on striping every year.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of it, so I'll just let you know that.
I'm in favor of the policy that Melanie articulated, which has been, you know, kind of the long-term striping policy.
It's bad hills and corners.
Yeah, you know, the blind hill on the Knowles Road and, you know, things like that, you know, where there's been, you know, some accidents before that, you know, the striping was meant to curtail or, and that's really the best thing. Because, if you start striping, fully striping, a newly paved road, then potentially, you have other people at another end of town who, kind of feel like maybe their road should be striped and, and with plowing and it just doesn't hold up and you wind up having to do it a lot on a yearly basis. And, so I just think if we could potentially do a better survey of dangerous places or, where striping isn't done now that maybe need to be done, that's something that our eventual road commissioner could undertake a little bit with the road committee. And maybe there's, some additional areas that could be striped that maybe need it. But it's hard to say at this point. I think that should be left up to them.
I vaguely remember we had this discussion years ago when I was on the board.
Yeah.
And I think the ones we have on the West Road, we have what, a single line?
No, it's a double line
Double
around
line,
some
okay,
of
that's-
the, around
that's
some
what
of the turns.
Right. And they basically told us that if you're gonna do it, you have to do, all of the roads would have to be double lined or marked out for passing and everything else because of the way the state statute is. I know that Hammond stripes in front of Hammond Lumber on the Depot Road, but they run one line down the road, and one of these days somebody may say something about that. Because I believe that they told us that you can't have a single line. Single line has to be on the edges of the roads.
Okay, well, I tell you what, then, after hearing the comments here, we'll just continue to stripe the things that are already striped. And I will pass it.
And I hear the concern because I have, there are times on the West Road when I've had to, I used to pick the kids up when they had course or whatever and bring a bunch of them home. And there are times when the West Road is foggy that you are crying.
Yeah,
Because
even on
you don't have-
Miney Hill, when you get down in that little valley down at the bottom of the fields.
And you just don't have anything to orient yourself by. So it's not that I don't hear the concern, it's or that I felt it, where I've been like, oh, holy moly, we're gonna make it, but it's that recurrent cost. And once we do it, we have to keep up with it. And we've all been everywhere in the spring. I mean, there'll be certain spots that you'll go to and, I always think, my God, they got to get out here and get the lanes remarked and, because come spring, it looks like they haven't done anything no matter how well they do it in the previous year.
Yeah, and it is that time of year, so I'll talk with Jason about it tomorrow. And I think Ernie suggested a good idea is maybe, we survey the roads for potentially dangerous areas that may need to be striped. But if we do that, obviously we'll involve the roads committee and we'll bring a recommendation to the select board.
Sure.
And I think, Jack, are you still there? I don't see him, because if I remember right, Jack did a drive around of the town when the roads committee was first formed, and there were a couple of them that did there you are, Jack. Jack, was that you who did that?
Yeah, probably I did, but it was a long time ago.
It was, because that's what I was thinking, because you were really surveying the roads to see, and then I remember coming before the board that these were the ones that were identified as, kind of problem locations that we should consider striping.
Well, I think that's where the striping came from that we do now, originally.
Right. Yep, exactly.
If there's more to be added, that's a consideration.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Well, here's another suggestion that has been made to me, is that we should have a sign at the village, a park sign like at the Village Green, like we do at Peninsula and Hayden Parks. I had that price. The price would be $195. I thought we might be able to erect it near the small little parking area there at the Village Green. Is that something that the board has any interest in?
But I do.
We should. It's one of our parks, so we should identify it.
There's a reason why we have signs at the other parks.
All right, we will make that happen then.
I'd be in favor of the smaller sign, not the.
Yes, right.
Not the big,
Right. Right. And I
4x6.
just included those other costs just in case you guys are familiar with any entryways into our town where you think that currently doesn't have a sign, where you think there should be a sign. But you can
Probably
you
just
can
one sign's all we need.
Yes, at the Village Green, certainly.
Yeah.
Now, Anthony, I did notice, just as kind of a side note, down on the West Road, what we had purchased, I thought to mark those signs was some sort of a lighted thing going around, and it looks like now we've got, and they're very visible, so I'm
Yeah.
assuming that I haven't heard back from the complainants down on that end.
Yeah. So the lighted things, Melanie, I actually priced that in the very beginning. I was shocked at how expensive that was. There, you see some of those like in Augusta where it's flashing. It's very eye-catching, but they're super expensive. And so initially we were just going to put like those orange ears at the top, but the sign company that Jason deals with did not have that. And so that was the next best thing, was the border around those signs. And like you, I have not heard anything from the folks who previously raised concerns down there. So
Yeah, I think it really stands out and
Draws attention to it.
yeah. So since I haven't heard anything, I put that under the category of no news is good news.
yep, check, done. One other thing I did want to bring up too, and just as we had a few weeks ago when we were talking about the interest on the town accounts, we had a question of what the interest was.
Mhm.
And because I think we had 45,000 and then thought maybe that was strongly overestimated. Did we ever get an answer? I don't remember seeing anything, and I may have just missed it.
Well, it's funny, Nick and I talked about that last month, and I've asked him to keep careful track of the revenues that are going into that account, just so we have a better understanding of what's contributing to that line item and why it may fluctuate up and down. So give us 6 months of this year, and I'll report back to you halfway through the year and just give you an indication, and we can give you a report at that time as to what the revenues have been and what we think may be influencing that bank interest revenue.
Okay, because we did used to do a quarterly review with the treasurer who would kind of bring us up to speed. And I think over the last couple of years, of course, it was kind of cattywampus and we had different treasurers. And it may be something that we want to get back on, because I feel like we realized a lot this year. We missed some stuff. And maybe it's just because we're not looking at stuff on a regular basis all together as a group.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, Melanie, maybe you and I can meet at some point and you can tell me the sort of information, and the rest you could weigh in on this, that you might like to hear from the treasurer, and we can definitely do some sort of quarterly report from the treasurer, whether that's a written report and then follow up with questions, during a meeting if you guys have questions, or just invite him to a meeting 4 times a year.
Yeah. And what do the rest of you think about that? Because it did kind of, I always felt like it kind of gave us a good idea of where we were at, how much we had spent, like if we were at, if we spent 40% of the budget in a couple of months, like, okay, so what's our plan, but it gave us a better idea. And then maybe, I hate that we've missed some kind of big things. So, maybe if we're all kind of looking at it, is everybody
Sounds
comfortable
like a good idea to me.
going back to that?
And just so you guys know, Nick and I, we run a monthly report at the beginning of each month. In fact, he just sent it to me yesterday, of revenue and expenditures year to date, just so that we can sort of track, make sure we're not getting too far out of alignment with any departmental budget.
And that wouldn't hurt my feelings to have you add that to your town manager's notes once a month.
Oh, okay.
Just so we've got a copy of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's some, there are some line items that at the beginning of the year look out of whack, and that's simply because it may be a one-time upfront payment that we make at the beginning of the year. And I'm thinking in particular, for instance, like our MMA dues are due at the beginning of the year, and that's like a $12,000, whatever the expense is, right up front. And so it makes it look like that departmental budget is out of alignment at the very beginning of the year. But then as you move
Yeah,
through the year,
we're paying too much for MMA then. After what I went through with them this week, they're gonna cost us some money in this town. So,
You can fill us in on that later.
yeah.
But do we have an answer to what we have for interest? Was there 45,000 in interest, or was there, because that would be on a lot of money at the interest rate that we tend to get, that 45,000. So is that a miscalculation?
I'm sorry now, are you talking about what the actuals were for 2020, or are you talking about what we budgeted for 2021?
Was the actual, when we were discussing the interest on the town's accounts, I remember there being a question about there was $45,000.
Right,
And
yes.
the number stuck in my head, but then the thought that 45,000 that's a huge number.
Yeah, well, and again, that was an actual figure. And at the time, it just made me a little nervous for budgeting that much because we had budgeted less and in some years received much, much less. And so I didn't want to get too far over our skis with that while Nick and I spent this year getting a better handle on what it is that's contributing to that number and what's causing it to perhaps fluctuate on an annual basis. It's one of those things, I think, Melanie, where we have new treasurer, new town manager, we're still trying to learn what's what to some extent.
Well, you got to remember, if we have an average in the bank of a couple $1 million, $40,000 isn't outrageous. That's 2%.
Yeah, well, and obviously, Dan, right? Yeah,
on a large saving account, that's not.
Yeah, well, and like you say, the interest rates are very piddly right now, less than 1% at the moment.
Yeah, but sometimes when you get into the larger accounts, though, they give you a better rate when you have $1 million or $2 million in the bank. So it may be why we're getting a little bit better.
Yeah, and so, and I think I informed you guys about this previously, but we did have some money at Skowhegan that we were using essentially just to have access to cash because they were so close as far as a location to us. And so we moved some of that money over to Androscoggin so that it could earn more interest with our main operating accounts, and left just a little bit over in Skowhegan just in case we needed quick access to cash.
Jack's got his hand up, Melanie.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jack.
I wondered if there would possibly be a question of timing and how the Unified Investment Trust interest was handled. Whether that's in one year and not in previous years.
Yeah, so that's a different animal, Jack. What we're talking about is the interest earned on the town's operating accounts versus the interest that's earned on the endowments.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the timing, whether that was in one time period and not in another, but.
Oh, if maybe that's what it was, that interest plus the main, if maybe it was more like
just a thought. I'm not saying one way or the other, but it's just something to consider.
Okay.
And speaking of which, just as a reminder, one more week we'll be collecting the RFQs for the investment management services. And I've sent that out to about 15 different firms and institutions, and we've gotten good response thus far, a lot of interest from some of those banks. In fact, spoke with the youngest son of Edmund Muskie today, who's working at Camden National Bank, and they're interested in submitting a bid to us.
Perfect. Do we have an estimate yet on the replacement of the appliances?
So Bruce and I talked about this last week. Bruce went over and did an estimate on, or gathered some information about Mrs. Burgess's appliances. And please correct me, Bruce, if I'm wrong about any of this, but when Bruce and I talked, he said that Mrs. Burgess actually expressed to him maybe a renewed interest in selling her property, but she didn't really cotton to talking with the state officials, and Bruce encouraged her to call me. And so I've held off on replacing the appliances. I have not heard from Mrs. Burgess, but earlier today I emailed her daughter just to tell you what I just explained to you, and just to ask if she wants to talk further about the possibility of selling her place, or if she wants us to go ahead and replace the appliances, because I'd like to get, if it's the latter, I'd like to get moving on that.
Well, because the only problem I have with us reopening discussions about purchasing properties is that the Salt Well Remediation Committee reviewed that as one of the options and negated that.
Yeah, well, and I'm just, that was a deal that she struck with DOT. So,
And we also, at that point, asked them to not negotiate on behalf of the town,
that's right.
that if it
That's
was
right.
not both of us, so.
So when I hear back,
I guess what I just want to make sure is that we don't have individual conversations with anyone saying that that's a possibility if we haven't decided that that can be a possibility, because we can't extend that to one and not to all. So
okay. Once I hear back from Mrs. Henry, one way or another, I will let the board know, and then you guys can. I mean, I know that we've already charted a path toward a public water supply. I fully understand.
And I can't say that, I don't think there's any one of us that was on that committee that thought that was where we were going to end up, like that was going to be the best solution.
Mm-hmm.
And I still, I would still like for us to set up a tour of a water a water supply facility. I think they had mentioned maybe New Gloucester.
Okay.
But I want to see something in action too.
Okay.
I can tell you by surveying that property, that even if we do a public water source, every property is going to be very expensive to the town to get back up to snuff, because your water fittings, all the fittings on the water systems are all rotten out from the salt, all the fixtures. It's going to be very expensive. If you want to look at a small municipal system, Reedfield's the one to go look at. Reedfield has a very small system. I think it's 10 to 15 properties. Winthrop Water District runs off a well. That'd be a system to look into, to talk about talk to Winthrop Water District or the Reedfield town manager.
So I know the Reedfield town manager, so I'll contact him tomorrow and see if we might be able to line something up.
Yeah, I would appreciate that, because I'd like to see something. I'm, a visual person. So, and have somebody kind of walk us through and talk to us about how it works. Now, the COVID restrictions are a little bit better, and maybe we could actually go and look at it.
Okay. And just so Dan, you and Melanie know, I contacted DOT today too, just saying, okay, these are the days and evenings that work best for our negotiators.
So it was Tuesdays, right?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yep. Okay.
So I'm waiting on a reply for them to see if one of those days, maybe next week, works.
Now, the only problem with Thursdays for me is I'm not home until at least 6:30.
And I told them that we couldn't start those meetings any earlier than 6:30.
I'd prefer to start them around 6:30 anyway, because
Okay.
right now they've moved me to almost 5 days a week for the legislature. And some nights I'm not getting out of there until 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Okay, very good. That's all the town manager report I had.
Oh, I've got one more question before we
Okay.
break. How are we looking on rec this year as far as camps and revenue wise? How do we think it's projected gonna?
I think this summer will be the telltale thing with that, Dan, because our after school program has, typically 8 to 10 kids. And so Lily and I talked about this just yesterday. She's gotten good response thus far from families who are wanting to sign up kids for camp, and the majority of those are signing them up for the full summer and not just for, a couple of weeks or something. So I tell you what, why don't I bring a report of that to you at the next meeting as part of the town manager's report. And of course, we'll have some, as I said, Nick sent me the revenue reports yesterday. I haven't had a chance to look at them, but we'll have some numbers through the month of April that we can share with you.
All right, and if we're considering doing the, what do we have lined up for Memorial Day?
Mary's gone. Mary is working on that. And in fact, we talked about that today, but we will have the ceremony out there at the cemetery, and she's lined up a speaker. She's trying to line up, she's lined up the name readers, and she's trying to line up some music right now.
Perfect. And do we have enough volunteers for planting the flowers, putting the flowers in at the graves?
I don't know, Bruce, do we ever have enough volunteers?
Some years you do, some years you don't. I'm not sure what there is for volunteers at this time. I think Phil and Mary were handling that, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, golly, last year it happened on a weekday, and we were afraid of how fast it was going to take. And with the staff and a few volunteers, we made pretty quick work out of that last year. So were you out there for that, Bruce?
No, I wasn't, unfortunately.
Okay, so I went out there and helped. I was surprised at how quickly it went. We were done by mid-afternoon.
Okay. Perfect. I was just all of a sudden, I'm like, it's May. Usually we have like a little bit of a plan in place, and
Well, fortunately, it's on the very last day of May this year, so gives us a little more time.
I guess I have a question, if it's all right.
Yeah.
Is the deal across the road from the town office, has that been taken care of yet?
Are you talking about JM Motors?
No.
No. Well, we will see. We're going to have the planning board wanted to discuss it Thursday night. And I know Gary has had a conversation with you, Rick. And so you know how Gary and I feel about that. And I just think they want to hear from the new owner what the plans are. And I believe that if the plans are as he's laid them out for us, it seems like a fairly smooth transition from what's happening at the kayak place to what will be happening.
I guess I'm just a little concerned why the planning board's even involved. Not the change of operation. And if that's the case, if we're going down that road, then we need to look on the other side of the town office and see what's going on. You know what? I'm not gonna throw any. I'm not doing it. I just think, you know what? I think we got to be careful, because it's not changing anything. I don't even know why they're involved. I just don't get it.
Well, because Rick, I'm just trying to be proactive so that if there's a concern that we address it on the front end as opposed to the back end.
Just got to make sure we do it to everybody. That's all I'm going to say.
true that. It's got to be what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah, well, and at least when I spoke to the prospective owner, he seemed to welcome the opportunity to talk about this and allay any concerns that there may be.
All right, does anybody else have anything else? All right, seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So be it.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? All right, good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night,
Thank you for
y'all.
being here.